Okay, we are back and we are live on this Monday talking rock with you as we do every day here on Sirius XM 103 Faction Talk. It's Eddie Trunk. We have joining us a guy who's been on the show many, many times over the years, and it's always fun to talk to him. Phenomenal guitar player. He's got a new album out with his band Lynch Mob, which is called Babylon, and it's out now. George Lynch joins us. How are you, George?
Hey, Eddie. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Hey, I got to ask you something before we even get into your record. I'm curious because I was kind of going crazy about this, and this stuff makes me bonkers. So I don't know if you heard about this, but Rolling Stone put out a list about a week ago of their 250 greatest guitar players. And it is so bad in so many ways, it's not even funny. And one of the things, I'm not just saying this to be self-serving. I mean, you're not on it. They've got Joan Jett at 72 and Steve Lukather at like 190. They put Joe Perry, but they don't put Brad Whitford. It's just mind-bogglingly ridiculous. Do you get wrapped up in that stuff? Do you ever look at that? Does that ever bother you? Do you put any weight in any of it, or you just laugh it off?
I only look at them if my name's in it. I scour for my name. If I don't see my name, then I write it off. That's bullshit.
Does it bother you if your name's not in it, or do you just when you see Joan Jett 100 places in front of Lukather, you forget it?
There's the ego part of my brain. Of course, it does react to that, but I try not to care. But of course, we all care. You want to be recognized for what you do. I mean, you work hard and you love what you do, and you think you're creating something of value that at least some people appreciate. And so I'm not looking at it in the context of a contest, but I do think it's important to anybody like myself who works hard and value, and hopefully would like to be perceived as having done something of value. And so that's what, where I think recognition matters. But listen, I'm saying, ranking artists is such a ridiculous premise. I think it doesn't make any sense. I mean, everything is in art is subjective. So why would how can you say one person is it can be 17 and another person is 18? That doesn't even make any logical sense. So, anyways, a lot of these polls, I think, and historically have been true, are really popularity polls. I mean,
not
Nick
this
Mars getting voted number one or two guitar players back in the 80s. He's a good guitar player. He's great, but I think that was more to do with Motley Crue being a huge band.
Right. Of course.
Angus Young being rated highly is, I think, is right that he should be, but not for the same reason that Yngwie is. So there's all these different things. I mean, Angus Young is arguably a more important guitar player than someone like Yngwie in the context of the rock pantheon and what he's done for rock and roll. But in a showdown of lead guitar prowess, he's not going to win. So against Yngwie.
George, who was the guy for you as a kid that you saw or heard that made you want to pick up the guitar and play?
It wasn't just one guy, I mean, I was fortunate enough to, and I think we've spoken about this before, to be raised in an era where, my friends would come to me at school and they would go, "Hey, have you heard of this new band? They got this album. It's pretty cool. It's called Led Zeppelin." And they weren't even a known band. It was like a new band that you discovered, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So I grew up with that. Jimi Hendrix, there's some black guy who sets his guitar on fire. Have you heard of him? No. I gotta check him out. Jeff Beck, had that first Jeff Beck record. I lived off that. I was very fortunate to be raised, on Cream and all these amazing, the I call them the Four Horsemen, I mean, and then everybody else that came since. And I've been a fan of everybody. So I learned from everybody. I mean, Leslie West, Michael Schenker, Eddie, Yngwie, I mean, all of them, they've all had a huge effect on me and continue to. So there isn't one guy, it's just Johnny Winter, everybody, a lot of obscure guys, Alan Holdsworth,
Right.
So there's not one guy. So I'm just kind of this amalgamation of like all these guys, and I'm not a schooled guitar player in the sense that I know theory or anything. So I've listened to all these people. I've never learned any songs or any phrasing that they play note for note, but I sort of listen to and absorb what they do by osmosis, and then that somehow subconsciously gets, becomes part of my style. And I think I've just kind of, spew all this stuff back out with little flavors of everybody that I've listened to throughout my whole life, and kind of been in my own way. And that's all it is. That's basically what I do. I'm sort of a synthesis of everything I've listened to for 60 years.
Recently I'm talking to some friends of mine in LA, and a guy like Brian Slagle from Metal Blade, who's a good friend. And recently people have been telling me a lot about your Pre-Dokken band, which I think was called Exciter. Was that the band?
It was, you can keep going back and back, but we had a band in Southern California called The Boys. And then The Boys turned into Exciter, which then turned into Dokken.
Because people told me, because being an East Coast guy, I mean, I didn't know that scene and didn't know those bands, but many people told me that they thought that Exciter was a phenomenal band, and always shocked that you didn't get, quote unquote, make it with that band. Why do you think that was? Why do you what misfired on that group?
Because every time we played a gig, Rick and Van Halen came after us. And they were like, crap.
You were opening for Van Halen?
Sign us, and we'd have management types out there and record label types out there, and we'd have, at one point Kiss was coming out, Gene was coming out to check us out, and he was very interested in the band for a while. And then invariably, every time we played a lot with Van Halen, and Van Halen would come out and just, we were good, but we weren't Van Halen.
Weren't Van Halen signed by then, or no?
No. This was right when we were all trying to get signed, and they were the first ones to get picked up, and whatever. We sort of fell by the wayside, but our band was actually really maturing very, and we kind of peaked just before we broke up. So there was a brief moment where our writing really took a huge leap forward, and our playing and our sound and everything, our whole chemistry really was starting to work, and we were firing all cylinders. But then the band fell apart. So well, and then we jumped into Dokken, and the rest is pretty well known history.
Did you have a friendship or maybe even rivalry with Eddie Van Halen back then? Did you know him well?
Yeah, I mean, we came up together, and we played the same places, and we were just, we didn't know each other well. We didn't hang out, but we played a lot together, and we would hang out, when we were getting guitars built and picking up parts and stuff over at Charbel's or Sandoval's or whoever's, so we'd run into each other a lot. So we were friendly, and we knew each other, but it was just sort of in passing. It wasn't like I was hanging out at his house or anything.
Right.
But I did used to hang out with Terry Kilgore, which is from Eddie Kilowatt, which is really Eddie before Eddie, which I've told that story a bunch of times. But Terry was the guy that kind of really started everything that Eddie ended up being famous for, the tapping thing, his Warm Brown sound and all those kind of things. Terry was doing that kind of before Eddie. Before that, Eddie was a Les Paul guy who was really into Clapton. Had a whole other thing going on. But he was amazing. He was freaking amazing. But he was a different thing. And then him and Terry were friends, and Terry kind of, I think he bit a lot of what Terry was doing and just made it bigger and better, with David Lee Roth and better songs and stage presence.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, I could talk to you about the old days forever.
I'm not saying any way to denigrate Eddie or anything. I'm just saying it was really super interesting, because if you get a hold of any of that early Eddie stuff from Mammoth, where he's playing a Les Paul through a basement amp, it's fucking unbelievable. But it's not. It's what's so interesting about it. It's a totally different Eddie that you haven't probably heard, which is really cool. Really, really cool.
Right. And if you read early interviews with him, he always cites Clapton and Cream and all that as a big influence, but you don't hear that in what became Van Halen. You're saying he was doing that before he picked up on what Terry was doing and then took that to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And I may be oversimplifying the whole process of how that all occurred, but also, yeah, it was huge. They were huge Montrose fans, and
Right.
And which is why, I believe he went, and got to, hired Sammy, or joined forces with Sammy, because that was one of their seminal idols, and
Right.
he got to play in a band with him, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I could talk to you about the old days forever, but let's talk about what's going on.
Dave wasn't a singer.
Right. Let's talk about what's going on now before I run out of time with you, and that is a brand new album out now called Babylon. Tell me about there's been a lot of people, as you've said yourself, in and out of Lynch Mob over the decades, and now it's more of like a collective of different people as you go. Tell me about the lineup on this record, because the singer you're working with, Gabriel, he is, I've seen you live with him, and he's real good. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time you made a record with him, right?
Right. This band's been together for a couple of years now, and we've got Gabriel Colon he's from Puerto Rico, and we've got Jaron Galino on bass, who has pretty much a short story. He felt that he was put on this earth to play bass in Lynch Mob. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would want that, but it seems like a pretty long time. I'm just kidding, but he's just a brilliant, beautiful guy, and is really sort of designed for this gig. I mean, he's got the perfect sound, style, look, and he's sort of our Swiss Army knife. He's the guy that does everything and fills in all the gaps and takes care of a lot of the stuff. And he's just a natural at all that stuff. And that's really important to have in a band, I think, a guy like that. And Jimmy DeAnd on drums, obviously we've been playing together for decades. And he's solid. And so it's kind of like Jimmy and I are the elder statesmen, and then we got these two younger guys, Jaron and Gabriel. And it's a really beautiful fit. It's great chemistry. We laugh. We have a great time. We have fun. We work hard. And we finally established kind of a chemistry and a sound, and it was very consistent. We were killing it, live. So we thought, well, let's document this. I think it's the right thing to do to, let people know what this new Lynch Mob is all about, instead of kind of a new trajectory or new precedent, kind of get away from chasing the wicked sensation thing, which we've been doing for a lot of years with Oni, and set a new course. Yeah, that's what this record does, Babylon.
When did you write it? Did you all get in a room and do it, or did you do it on the road? Did it come together through playing live with this lineup?
We actually took some time off, and we went to this kind of I would say I don't say exactly where it was, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and we just sort of went into retreat and hunkered down and did it out of the
old
hustle.
school.
Wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and having distractions, and so we went out in the desert. And the Lynch Mob is kind of, I always think of it as a desert band, because we were born in Arizona, as a band, and created our first record out there and lived out there as a band and everything. And I think it was kind of going back to the source, went back to get that desert energy. And I think it really worked out for us.
When you first put Lynch Mob together back in '89, coming out of Dokken, you get Wicked Sensations, a big record. I think you told me in the past you got paid more money to make that record than any record in your career. It does well. Did you envision that original lineup? Was your hope that original lineup with Oni, Mick, and Anthony was going to last? Would you have preferred that you kept the same band, or do you like so many different people coming in and out over the years and changing stuff up?
No, in retrospect, in hindsight, I absolutely wish I had kept the band together, despite the difficulties we were having. And there's a reason why we, for instance, got rid of Oni without getting into the weeds. We had a very good, valid reason, but really, at the end of the day, it's rock and roll. You put up with all that kind of stuff, and you just keep plowing forward. And really, it was such a magical thing that the first inception of the band was so wonderful. So it was a mistake to kind of conform this practical rationale to boost, kick somebody out. Being in a rock band isn't a day job. You get to show up late and do bad things. I guess that's rock and roll. And we were looking at it more like, people have to show up on time, and everybody's got to be clean and sober, and fucking this is a job. That's really not how you should look at it. I don't think so. In hindsight, yeah, I think it was a mistake. I do want to clarify something about the money. Yes, we did get paid more money than any other record, but we also spent every nickel of it. So,
what did you spend it on? Being bad?
No.
What did you spend it on? The bad things?
No, we spent it on the record.
Oh, okay.
Every nickel into that record. We spent it on studios and producers and mixers and just expenses. And, we spent a lot of time. I think we spent like over a year making that record in, very expensive studios. We'd mix the whole record and then can the mix after paying for it, which was super expensive. We did very expensive touring back then. We toured with a semi and a full sound system and a full crew and lights and LD and front house and everything. I mean, it was a massive. We would show up at venues, and our trucks would be in the club. We had full production. All these stairs and dragons and backdrops. It was a massive thing. But we wanted to come off big time, so we did. But we paid for it. So, oh well.
Yeah. The new album Babylon from Lynch Mob is out now. First record made with the lineup, as we just mentioned. And again, I've seen the lineup, and if you've seen Lynch Mob in the last year or two live, you've seen this lineup too. So I'm glad you've made a studio record with them, and I've listened to it, and it sounds really, really good. And you're going to play basically a release party this coming Wednesday, actually, at the Whiskey, right?
Day after tomorrow. Yes, sir.
So if in the LA area, you can go see Lynch Mob. And George, how much of the new album will you be able to play in the set? Because you and I both know, and you and I are on a lot of the same gigs all the time. We see each other a lot, and I see it all the time. It's so hard for bands that have 30, 40, 50-year histories to get new music over. Sometimes they don't even end up playing. If they play one, it's a lot in the set. Are you going to try to work this in that way, or do you?
We've been playing songs, 2 or 3 songs off the record for since we wrote them, even before we recorded them, and
okay.
and in that 7 or 8 months that we've been doing that, people didn't know the songs when we play them live, and we play them every night, and they haven't heard the record, obviously, so they didn't have any reference point. And we assumed that people wouldn't like the songs, just, roll their eyes or whatever, like, come on, play something we know. But actually, and I'm saying this, I'm not a biased voice here, but people have freaking really loved these songs. And it shocked me. And you asked the band, we'd get off the stage after doing it the first night. I go, I wasn't expecting that. I really thought, people just ho-hum or whatever, ho-hum response. But we got like maybe best response of the night from the new songs, and that's been consistent up until now. So wasn't just a fluke, And so that kind of mystifies me. I don't quite understand what's going on there. But anyways, we've been lucky and had great audience reaction to the new songs, even though they're not familiar with them.
And are you still going out and doing the guest appearance stuff with Dokken?
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of that, and then I'm doing some other stuff on my own, too, with a band called AON with Terry from XYZ. Kind of a mix of different things. I kind of find that sort of fun because it breaks it up, and I get to, play different kinds of music and in different environments with different people, and, keeps it interesting. But, I do, I still do the Dokken thing here and there. Not a lot, but a little bit. I got a show in Vegas at Harrah's next month with them.
And in the past, you've been honest about the fact that the reason why you don't go back to Dokken full time is it's just a money thing, right?
Yeah, it would. Well, right. I don't think it would make sense for anybody involved financially because it's pretty maxed out right now. Don's squeezing what he, as much as he can out of the deal, and as he should. And I think that's pretty much wrung pretty much everything he can out of it. I think the only next step up could possibly be a full band reunion, or close to a full band reunion as we can pull off. Then I don't see that in the cards. So Having me walk on for the whole show as opposed to just the last, 3 or 4 songs doesn't really benefit anybody, except the fans. The fans would probably love that, but on every other level, there's no real payoff to do that. So there's no motivation to do that. That's my point.
But you guys seem to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, the way you've been working this, where you come out for 3, 4 songs at the end after John plays the set, it seems to be like, in terms of just personalities and your history, it seems to be a good way to work. Everybody seems to be kind of cool, and you guys have had a pretty good run here of no drama, unless I've missed something.
No, absolutely. There hasn't been one iota of drama. No, it's been wonderful. Everybody's fine. It's all good people. Everybody's hangs. John is very, very cool. Sometimes I'm not able to bring my rig out, and I get to just plug straight into his rig. It sounds great. And he's been nothing but helpful and supportive, and Don and I get along just fine. Everything, and the band's great, and they're super cool guys. So we have fun on stage and off stage, so nothing to complain about. It's absolutely been it's not rocky in any way. So which kind of mystifies me. I was expecting a little bit of drama at some point along the way. So maybe I need to create some. I don't know.
Well, if there's drama, I mean, I'm sure you pick up on this. Don does take a lot of hits from people about his voice these days and his performance, and I know he's been through a lot health-wise as well. Do you ever talk to him about any of that? I mean, I know he's aware of it.
Well, sure. I mean, he talks openly about all that stuff, and it gets discussed. And usually, he's the one, bringing it up. But I mean, he's just, I think he feels like the rest of us at our age, that we're probably close to maybe, doing a soft retirement. I know Lynch Mob today is announcing our final ride, 2024. We're going to be hanging it up after this year, so we're going to try to.
Is that right? You're ending Lynch Mob. This is 24 is going to be your last year for Lynch Mob.
Yeah, we do have a Monsters of Rock cruise booked on March of 25, so that may be our actual final date, because we are contracted for that. But for all intents and purposes, 24 will really be. We're going to try to work pretty hard in 24 and give people one final chance to see the band, seeing before they die tour.
Well, why is that, George? Because you got these new younger guys in there. You made a real good new record in Babylon. It seems like things have been going well. Is that your call, or you just feel it's time?
I think it was kind of my call, but the thought behind it is there's, as you mentioned earlier, Lynch Mob has been a revolving door since its inception. And this feels like a solid landing, like this version of the band has been intact now for a couple of years and is very, very solid. And I think is about as solid as it's ever going to get. What I really wasn't looking forward to is again, another member change, another singer change, and all this and that. I don't want to go through that anymore. I'd like to see this solid lineup be the bookend and the end cap for the story. And I'm going to be 70 next year, so
but you're in great shape, and you don't have to sing.
Yeah, it's not like I'm going to be retiring, permanently. I'm going to be still going out probably and doing some stuff, but it'll give me a freedom to kind of stretch out, maybe play out as a solo artist, and play material from all different projects or any project that I've been involved in, which is quite a few. So, I can go back in time 40, 50 years if I want. I could play stuff from Exciter. Yeah.
Well, true.
Like Paris is Burning is an Exciter song, which became a Dokken song. So, stuff like that, or, stuff off my instrumental solo records, things like that. Become a little more self-indulgent,
Wow, that's interesting. So I didn't know that. So Lynch Mob, one more year, and so do you view Babylon as the final Lynch Mob studio record, or do you think you'll do another one before you call it?
Well, that remains to be seen. I don't want to say. I don't want to say this is our final record, because we may look at it like, well, we'll get through our heavy touring schedule in 24, and maybe some dates in 25 and cap it off with Monsters of Rock Cruise in March of 25. But maybe we want to leave our options open to do another studio album while things slow down at the beginning of 25. But we wouldn't have to be out there touring and promote it. So we have to think about that. I'm not saying we are going to do another studio record, but I definitely know I want to leave that option open.
Right. Well, yeah. And for people that haven't followed closely in your career, you've done a lot of stuff. I mean, you've had a lot of different projects, bands. You've recently made, as you said, solo records. There's been a lot of stuff you've done. The one last thing I want to ask you about before I let you go is KXM, the ever elusive KXM live shows. Is there any update on that band ever actually playing live? Last time I saw Ray, he's like, "It's going to happen, Eddie," but it hasn't.
Yeah. It's funny because Korn records in Bakersfield, and I live, our Southern California place where my studio is right off the freeway where he drives to Bakersfield when he's working out there. And he always comes by here, and, we end up shooting the shit, and, and Doug gets we text each other and everything. And it's like, we all want to do it, but it's tough, it's tough to get schedules together. I mean, it was a miracle we ever did the first record. We really had to pull teeth to make that happen. So maybe with Lynch Mob kind of slowing down after 24, that would be the time to ramp up KXM or something else. I don't know. But as we speak, I am literally in the studio today, like every other day. I've been in the studio for about a week, writing and recording a new Dirty Shirley record.
And that's Dino singing, right?
Yeah. But Dino's not doing this record. I don't think. We have a girl named Cassandra who's freaking amazing. It's Dino's favorite female singer, and she's and he's her favorite singer. So she's a power singer. I mean, she's amazing. And it's kind of a cool twist, I think, to have a girl, up front. I don't know if we can still call it Dirty Shirley, I guess, or maybe she needs to change her name to Shirley. I don't know. But anyways, the record's amazing. We just literally wrote the last song last night and recorded the guitars on it. And we're just kind of going through things here the next couple of days, just kind of crossing T's and dotting I's and things like that. And that'll be in the can. End Machine 3 is finished, and that'll be coming out early next year.
And is that with Robert singing?
No. We have a new singer, Girish. His name is Girish, and he's from India. And people are like, "What?" Oh man, taking nothing away from Robert, but this guy is fucking stunning. He's like on a Dino level, different, a little thicker voice and bluesier style than Dino, a little more our style. Dino's a little more metal, but a little more dramatic. But this guy's fucking amazing. Yeah. So it's the Frontiers heard the record and it's just beside themselves. They just we were firing on all cylinders on this one. Everything came together. So it's by far and away the End Machine record, and probably the best record I've done ever. It's just all wow. Everything about it is just like stunning. I'm just like, God damn, I played this? Holy crap, I played that. And then right now I have an instrumental record that's been out for about a month called Guitars at the End of the World.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
You might be 70, but you ain't slowing down at all.
Well, no, I'm speeding up because I want people to realize that I'm a genius after I'm dead. I just wish they would have told me before I died and not put me on that freaking best guitar player, 250 guitar players in the world, but leave out George Lynch. And like, damn. Maybe
we're going to revise that list. George, I'm revising that list because there's so many great players like yourself not on it. So this week I'm doing my own list, and I can guarantee you will have a prominent spot on there, George.
And wait, so how many guitar players is on the list?
250.
Okay, so you could come up with Eddie Trunk's version of that list, but you could call it the best 251 guitar players, and then just put my name in the end.
No. I'm going to come up with a real list that makes sense of really great guitar players like yourself that were excluded by this nonsense. I'm going to set it straight.
All right. Well, listen, if everybody had a guitar poll, every person on the planet had a guitar poll, guess how many guitar polls we'd have that are all unique and different? 8
Right.
billion.
Right. It's true.
Everybody's got an
It's
opinion.
true.
You know?
It's true. It's very true. Well, listen, man, I'll let you go. New album is out now from Lynch Mob, Babylon. Check it out. If you're in the LA area, Wednesday night at the Whiskey, the concert release party. And we learned that probably last year and change of victory lap here. Farewell for Lynch Mob, which I don't believe anybody when they say they're doing a farewell, George, but we'll go with that for now.
Well, we invested in making a poster, so we have to go through with it. And it's Final Ride 24.
Final Ride 24. There's the verbiage.
It's
All
not
right.
farewell. It's Final Ride.
Got it. All right, man. Well, listen, I'll let you get back to the studio. Good talking to you. I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Eddie.
You got it, man.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
I mean, that guy, the fact that, and Joel, I'm assuming he's not on that Rolling Stone list because it would make sense for him to be on that list. No, watch, he's on it. I didn't know it, but there's no way George Lynch would be on that list. Rolling Stone would not have a clue to do that. No, I'm just looking through it. They don't have, there's no way. I have it right in front of me. Of course not. He list that's got Steve Lukather there at 186. Holy Christ, I'm not going to go back down this road again. We're going to save this for later in the week, but my God, is this hysterical. No George Lynch, but there are people on here that you would not believe and people that you have never heard of and people that you just cannot. It's beyond comprehension. Alex Lifeson at 58. There's that. Now, George is nowhere. George is not on here. But many will tell you that George, we just talked about a little bit about George's history. George is one of the greats. Whatever. Anyway, but George does a lot. Now, he was mentioning, I didn't get a chance to ask him about this. He said this woman, Cassandra, is singing for him now in this Dirty Shirley band, which the singers change. I mean, you need a scorecard to keep up with his stuff. A different singer in End Machine. The original End Machine was everybody in Dokken but Don. So that's obviously changed because Mick's gone and now. So I don't know. George will have a record out like every 2 months, so I'm sure we'll be hearing from him again soon. You just heard he's working on stuff as we speak. Anyway, thank you to George Lynch. Always interesting and entertaining to talk to him. Good stuff in there about Van Halen in the early years as well. And again, the big takeaway for me, which I had no idea, is he's saying Lynch Mob is done in 24, or they'll play Monsters of Rock on 25, and that'll likely be the last show they play. Believe it, not for a minute. Not me, at least, but that's his plan, at least. And, George is right. When he says he's 70, yeah, he's 70. But you know what? That guy's in great shape for 70 years old. You see him, and you would not believe he's 70. So he's still got a lot of gas left in that tank, no doubt. All right, thanks to George Lynch.